Hello, everybody, and welcome to Taking Control, the ADHD podcast on True Story FM. I'm Pete Wright, and I'm here with Nikki Kinzer.
Hello, everyone. Hello, Pete Wright.
Hello, Nikki Kinzer. How you feeling this fine Monday?
Doing pretty good.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah?
It's 2021.
World's looking all right. 2021, we're kicking along. Things are good.
Along. Yep.
Yeah, feeling good about
We've got
that.
another great
my podcast
show
dog.
from
We've got a great show.
yeah,
Things are good in the world right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're fine. We're all fine here.
We're fine.
All right, so we are continuing our epic multi-part series on living with ADHD, and this was one of the episodes one of the interviews that you did that you felt very strongly needed to be included at some length, and that it's worth talking about because of the adaptation of technology and the tools that we use to actually manage and manifest our life's goals. And you were very impressed by this person. And I'm very excited to talk about it because, of course, the tool that we're talking about is one of my very favorites.
Oh, yes.
Even though I got really upset with it once and we broke up for a little while, but I am back to using it. And I figured out how to make it okay. And it's all fine. Don't worry about it. We broke up, but we're back together. Before we do that, head over to takecontroladhd.com and get to know us a bit better. You can listen to the show right there on the website or subscribe to the mailing list, and we will send you an email each time a new episode is released. Connect with us on Twitter or Facebook at takecontroladhd. And if you want to know what musical Pete was a featured guest star in high school, and maybe even hear some singing, you should check out patreon.com/the ADHD podcast. Why are those things related? That is a great question. Because with your membership, supporting membership of the show, you get access to the live streams of this podcast. That means before we get on to do the show each week, I send a little email out to everybody before the show, and they get to jump into this YouTube live stream and watch us do this whole thing and see some pretty ridiculous backstory. It's all about the backstory. You also get access to the monthly happy hour where many great shenanigans occur between our other community members. It's very fun. And of course, you get access to the online, very special double secret, triple secret, nay, quadruple secret members only Discord channels. You become a patron and the Discord channels magically appear in the Discord community. You can jump in and interact with all these fantastic supporters. Patreon.com/the ADHD podcast to learn more. Thank you for your support. Nikki, let's talk about Study Hall.
Yes, which is also a benefit to the Supreme members of
That's right.
Patreon. So I'll talk about that in a
That's
minute.
right.
But yes, Study Hall. So our next set of sessions is coming up. And when I do that, I offer a little break in price. So typically the study halls are $10 a week. If you would like to get this break in price, then you get 10 weeks of the study hall, which is the full session, for the price of 8 weeks. So instead of paying $100 for 10 weeks, you're only paying $80 for 10 weeks. However, if you become a Patreon Supreme member at $10 a month, you get these study halls for free.
That's a hell of a deal.
Yeah. Think about that for a moment.
Yeah.
Stir that in your head. So if you've joined the study halls before, if they're beneficial to you, and you, as Pete says, want to support us in some way, that would be a great way to do it. And you get these study halls that are every Thursday afternoon.
Also, study halls, beneficial. She's selling it way too lightly.
I know.
The study halls are magical.
They really are.
Y'all. They are magical.
And I got to tell you, last Thursday, I didn't want to do study hall.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be there. I wanted to be there with the people, but I didn't want to work. Like, I wanted to chat.
Right. Yeah.
Like,
you wanted to head out,
just
hang out in the bleachers,
into the chat room and just start talking to people. Like, what are you doing?
With Sandy and Danny, and hang out with your
what are you
illicit cigarette. Yeah.
When are you going to be done? You want to chat? Yeah. That's what I wanted to do. But I didn't. I let the good, fine people of Thursday Study Hall do their work. But finally, I thought, I should just work because that's why I'm here. Even though I don't want to, I'm going to do it. And I got to tell you, it is magic because I got so much done on Thursday afternoon because as soon as I got started, which we all know that getting started is troublesome. And once I got started, I was on a roll and I made the best of the time. So it's a good thing. I do need to let people know that the deadline for the 10 weeks for 8 weeks is March 25th. So that is the first Thursday of this 10-week session. And that's the deadline of getting this deal is March 25th. So there you go.
Okay, that's it. Thank you, everybody. Patreon.com/the ADHD podcast. We're talking to Kathleen today.
We are.
Nikki Kinzer.
Yes, we are.
Okay, set us up a little bit. What is it that you're excited about?
Yes. So Kathleen has been a listener for a long time, and we have chatted here and there, throughout the last couple of years. And she has dedicated a lot of time in really making her productivity system work for her. And so impressive because I see how she has set it up, and she uses two things. She uses the thought process of GTD, getting things done from David Allen, and also Todoist. And I got to tell you, she's one of the few people that I have talked to that has really done a good job of tweaking GTD. Because sometimes getting things done is just not an ADHD friendly thing to do. And sometimes it is.
Right.
But she has definitely made it her own. And she's really made a difference with how she tracks her goals, like long-term goals, and how she incorporates them into monthly, weekly, even sometimes daily things. And she's worked really hard. And I remember asking her one time, how did you do this? How did you make this work? Because, people struggle. And when she was talking to me about this, she already had a lot of this already set up. So this wasn't something that I helped her do. She had this. And so this is a little bit of what she's going to talk about today is how she did it, what her thought process were and what got her through. And I hope everybody enjoys it.
For myself, it's really about combining getting things done, the sort of methodology for getting organized that David Allen came up with, GTD for short, that most people know in the productivity world. It was basically a combination of taking the best elements of GTD and making them tweaking them and altering them slightly to make them more ADHD friendly, especially with regards to working memory issues and just especially with not knowing, just for flat out making all these goals or resolutions or even determining what my values are,
right.
And then feeling really good in the moment, and then 5 days later forgetting that I even did them. And I'm oh yeah, that goal thing.
So easy to forget. Yeah.
Yeah. So basically what I've done is take the best elements of GTD, tweak them to a more ADHD friendly version, and then actually implemented them or have been in the process of implementing them and trying to develop a habit around them with a task management program. And there's lots of different ones out there. Some people use Things, some people use Trello, some people actually use Evernote as a task management thing. I use Todoist.
Oh, Pete will be happy about that.
Yeah. Just I don't know. I just tried out a whole bunch of them.
And that one resonated with you.
And that one resonated with me.
It's really important that people understand that you want to look at them, but you want to see what really resonates with you. And that's where you were with the Todoist. Yeah.
Todoist just felt really intuitive and really simple. And even for a while, I was using the free version because with all these programs, there's the free version where you don't get all the bells and whistles, but then there's also the level up premium subscription or whatever. And even with just the free, what I found was with Todoist, even the free version of it was just out of the box, you could just start using it and you just learned as you went or whatever, as opposed to some other systems and tools like apps and whatnot, or even certain types of planners. You have to almost learn before you actually do.
Mm-hmm.
This was like, Todoist is more like learn by doing.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So why don't you tell us a little bit about the process of getting Todoist to work for you? Because that's a big problem for a lot of people. They will start and then they don't, something happens or they don't keep it up and then they just let it go. And you've been using Todoist for a long time and it's definitely working. And I'm just really curious, like, how does somebody get over that hump of the challenges to actually continuing to make it work and make those tweaks?
It might sound like a slight aside, but it's actually not. It's totally related because ADHD.
Yes.
But like one of the things that I really value in my life, like one of the values that I try to live my life by, is simultaneous, like kind of mindfulness, which like meaning present moment awareness, non-judgmental kindness, those aspects too. And so I try to apply mindfulness as much as possible to various aspects of my life, like whether it be my productivity habits or just my own history or all different aspects of my life. And one of the big keys like about mindfulness is that, the classic meditation instructions are sit down, follow your breath or follow sound or whatever. And when you get distracted, not if you get distracted, when you get distracted, notice it, non-judgmentally label it, and then come back to what you're doing. And that's like the basics for meditation, mindfulness meditation instructions. I basically take that and apply it to my life where I'll be, even now when I'm like, it's been a couple of years that I've been using to do this on an almost daily basis. Things will get busy. I'll just forget. I'll forget to open the app for a couple days on end. Things will back up a bit. And then I'll be like, oh yeah, something will just pop my memory to it. And I'm like, oh yeah, it's been a couple of days. I got to get sorted with it, get clear on it. And whereas before, like maybe years and years before I was diagnosed for sure with ADHD. And then even afterwards, there would be like, lots of guilt and shame and sort of like frustration and just hopelessness around, another thing that I forgot to follow up on, or another thing I just let slip by. This time, I try to approach it from a mindful, non-judgmental perspective of, a couple days went by, I forgot. Okay, start back on it. And since I already have a nice baseline, which I can talk about in a sec, to go back to, it's not like I'm not starting from ground zero too.
Yeah.
It's, a couple days of like appointments being backed up and I just haven't processed all my information. That's fine, as opposed to, now I got to start this whole thing over again. Yeah.
Which is instantly where people will go, but that's not true because you have the base already. Yeah. And
exactly.
I love how you connected the mindfulness, the meditation, recognize the thought. Yeah. And I love how you're connecting that to recognize that, I didn't do it for a couple of days. That's okay. Yeah, I can go back to it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. And so I guess maybe I'll just talk about the baseline that I tried to establish. So I'll even just I have the getting things done. And just so for people who don't know, and especially people who are like just listening, basically the essence of getting things done at GTD is there's 5 elements to like the workflow model that he presents, which is like you first, and they're all separate elements that you have to get into separate mindsets to do. And this is his workflow for quote unquote getting organized in life. Like whether you're applying that to your physical organization, your mental organization. And so he says that the 5 separate phases or steps or whatever are: you capture what has your attention, you clarify what each item means and what to do about it, you 3 organize the results, and then 4 you come to reflect on those results that you've organized, and 5 you engage in it, you actually take action, you do. And I went through this book GTD and basically went through it as he suggests, which is do a massive inventory of your life. Take a weekend, even like book a weekend off, put your phone on hold, on mute or whatever, so you can do that, or you can like kind of space it out also, like schedule like 1 or 2 hours a day for however long it takes you. And basically just go through the whole process of capturing every single thing, do a massive brain dump, get everything out of your head, and then organize it into different projects and various things. And according to him, he says that it takes like about between 20 and 30 hours to go through the whole process. Yeah. And that's roughly about how much time it took me I did it over like a month span or whatever.
And when you say take you, exactly what do you mean? Take you to inventory your life, like where your values are, what your priorities were? Is that what you mean?
Inventory your entire life from everything like, what is this pile of boxes in the corner of my room? What do I need to do with them? How do I need to like unpack them? Are they there to be sold? Are they there? So from physical organization to processes, like how am I doing my laundry every week? Like how am I thinking about what steps do I take usually to make food, do meal prep, and to just like things. So you take every single thing that's like in your head and in your life. Like you just walk around your house and you're like with a notepad and you're like, okay, yeah. It was just hilarious to be like TV, and just throw it into like the in basket and then clarify each one. What does this mean to me? And so to go through that initial process, there wasn't much like ADHD tweaking that needed to happen necessarily. Oh yeah. And the big thing with him though is like about his process about GTD is that really helped me was like with a reframe and a reshift around rather than just thinking about to-do lists as like this one overwhelming like thing with 197 different steps on it or to-dos on it. Break everything down into projects so that basically a project is defined as any outcome you want that takes more than one step. So if you can accomplish your outcome by making one phone call, then that's not a project. That's just a phone call you need to make. But if you're like, so everything from projects are like anything from need to replace battery in my car to need to buy a new car to like stuff at work, like need to find a new job. I don't know. And so basically try to break down your life into projects so that you can always try to like feel like you're making progress towards something.
That's something I have to say that I really admire you for is that I know that you have set up quarterly goals and you use Todoist to remind you of those goals and you do make continuous progress. Do you feel like that is a direct result then of breaking these things down? And
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And so yeah, breaking them down is really helpful because then every week or every 2 weeks or every however long sometimes it's supposed to be once a week that you're supposed to review all your projects. And that's where like the fourth step of the steps are like the reflection or the review. Like you're supposed to do it once a week, or it's suggested that you do it once a week to keep making sure that you're making progress on all the different projects you've outlined as being important to you. ADHD and life just gets busy. Sometimes I don't do the weekly review for a couple weeks or 3 weeks or whatever. But then when I do go back to it, I know that, oh yes, these are the like 70 or 50 or 30 or 100 or however many projects that I know that I'm committed to making action on that I can just go back to. Yeah. But the thing that I really had to tweak for ADHD purposes is like about the GTD system and Todoist. The way I have it set up is like the one thing that like really is like the most top of mind that I had to tweak was, so you go through this process, right? If you actually follow the getting things done methodology as it's laid out in the book, you go through the process and it takes like anywhere from 20 to 40 hours over however long to set up your system and populate your system with. And then you're supposed to like do the review once a week to keep upkeep on it or whatever. But then it's just assumed that you're going to always check all of your inboxes and all of your emails and your anywhere that like people send you messages. It's just assumed that like that first part of the capture method, like the methodology, the first part of it is called capture. And it's about like capturing all the, not just the stuff in your head, but also the Facebook DMs and the Twitter DMs and all the social media places where people will message you and expect responses or email. And it's so easy with ADHD to just forget about that stuff like for weeks, or then to check on it and feel really overwhelmed because there's way too many and you're just like, I don't know where to start. And so one thing that I did that has been really helpful is I've set as reminders into my system, little messages will pop up like every couple of days. Like sometimes it'll pop up once a day for example, my emails, but I don't get very many voicemails these days. So voicemail will show up twice a week as a reminder to, hey, just to remember, check your voicemail or check your email, try to work on clarifying those, get those back. So the ultimate goal is to try to get all of your inboxes, places where stuff that might have your attention shows up, back to zero at, inbox zero concept as often as possible. And so I'll have I have various filters within my email, even for different organizations that I'm a part of, that I volunteer with, like that have different threads going on. In my Todoist, every day it'll be like, check general email filter. That's every day. And clarify the emails. And then once every couple days, it'll be like, I'm on a housing board and board of directors. And so it's check the email that has that filter. Yeah. And so then it just basically is, so it's always reminding me to clear out my inboxes. Like, I don't necessarily always do it when I see reminders, but at least the reminder's there.
Right. Right.
And even things like, because I was finding, for example, and I'm always tweaking it, right?
Yeah.
Like whenever something comes up, basically I've taken the sort of simultaneous like GTD and Todoist systems and apps or whatever. I've taken them, they've helped me get away from like the negative mindset of when something messes up, like my ADHD, when my ADHD wins,
right.
Like I miss an appointment or I'm late to something or I don't get back to someone on something in quick enough time. Whereas like in the past, like in 5-10 years ago, I would have just like, someone would message me being like, oh, I invited you to this event and you didn't come to it. And then I would feel bad for like days. I'd let it drag down my mood for days and get down on myself about, oh, I'm always disappointing people and blah, blah, blah. And instead, this has helped me, having both the Todoist set up as the platform for working ADHD or working GTD in my life, has helped me really take like some negative comment and use it as information as, oh, okay. Yes, I'll allow myself to feel bad for a couple of minutes and be like, yeah, that sucks that I didn't do that. But then I'll be like, so what was it about that situation that fell through my organizational cracks? And for example, when I first set up the Todoist and with all the different inbox reminders to check, I had like not a lot of them in there. I was basically like email, Facebook, voicemail, and then texts, like text messages. It was just like reminders would pop up for those 4. And then over time, I would add more. And then, so for example, that someone would, when that happened, like someone was like, I invited you to an event on Facebook, but you didn't come. And that was because I had forgot to check my Facebook invites or forgot my Facebook notifications or got overwhelmed by my notifications.
Yeah, right.
Like, I can't even handle that. So taking that information, I set up a filter in my Todoist so that I think it's like once a week or maybe once every 2 or twice a week, once or twice a week, a little like reminder pops up with a link embedded in it where I can just one click, it'll say check Facebook event invites, and it'll just press it and it just instantly brings me to see if anyone's invited me to any events that I can just then add to my calendar and stuff like that. Yeah. And then so that issue has not come up as much anymore.
Yeah. And I love how you were curious about it. So you let yourself feel it and then you were curious about it. And then you did something different in your system so that it would be less, or it wouldn't come up again, or at least not as often.
Not as often. Yeah. And same thing with the birthdays and stuff like that. Like for years, like I'm in my like mid 30s now. And for at least like the last 10-15 years since I moved out on my own at 20 or whatever, I've just had this, and I didn't get diagnosed with ADHD till I was 30. First 10 years of being on my own were undiagnosed. But basically the last 10, 15 years, I've been like, just feeling kind of like every time I'd miss someone's birthday, like miss sending them a card, especially around my immediate family, who we live across the continent from each other. And I'd miss their birthdays, and sometimes they'd mention it and I'd feel bad and just have that guilt and shame. And so just this year, as a way to incorporate that information into my Todoist, I set up basically I did a brainstorm of every single person that I actually care about sending something to. So it came like a list of maybe 15 or 20 people. And then I went and made like a template of how to set up, like in an ADHD friendly way, how to get the process started or finished to send a card in the mail. So literally 4 weeks, or maybe even that more than that, 6 weeks before the person's birthday. And I just have it set on like an annual thing. So I only have to set it up once, and then I just, click the button and it goes to the next year. Where it's basically 6 months before, it'll be like, buy a card for birthday. And that'll just be a repeating event until I do it. And then the next week, like 5 weeks before, it says, put a stamp on the card and write the address and your return address, like address and stamp the card. But don't sign the card even, just the address and the stamp. And then 4 weeks before, it's now sign it and get your partner to sign it. And then it's okay. And then 3 weeks, it's now put it in the mail. But I give myself a lot of leeway because I know that maybe a couple of weeks will go by and I'll forget.
Right.
Yeah.
I love that, because that is breaking that project down to the smallest piece. So it's not so overwhelming when you look at, buy or send card, to you have it so broken down. Yeah. And with the reminders too. That's awesome.
So part of the GTD is also that's really good to state is that a big component of it is like making sure that you have distinguishing between actions that need tasks or to-do items that are actionable, like things that you can physically or visibly, tangibly take action on, and to-do list items that are more reference, more, I would like to have this around, but there's no action I need to take on it. That's the big distinction. So as a part of setting up the process, I set up a really nice reference file, both digitally in Evernote and physically, in a little hanging file folder or whatever. And that's a really good distinction to know, that my Todoist is used for goals, projects, things that have actual tangible outcomes. Yeah. And the Evernote is reference. It's stuff that's maybe supportive of those projects, or maybe it's just random articles I found on the internet that I want to read later. It's just a whole mishmash of everything. Whereas if it goes in my Todoist, it's going to get done at some point eventually. Yeah.
It's a really good distinction. Knowing your purpose for each program. Yeah.
Yeah. No, totally. It's really helpful. And so the reason I bring this up is because in my physical reference file, I actually have a bunch of folders labeled birthday cards. And I do have some generic kind of birthday cards. And I have as well another one for thank you cards. Yeah. And one thing that I've started doing also is that, again, because it's trying to remind myself how I have a glitchy memory. Accepting, I think for so long I fought against it and was but maybe I can I was trying to use techniques or trying to look for, even after I was diagnosed, the first maybe couple years that I was diagnosed with ADHD, I was, instead of accepting that my memory can sometimes be like Swiss cheese, it's just got little holes in it, instead of actually accepting that and then looking for tools to help accommodate it, or to help manage it or cope with it or whatever, I was trying to find tools that would help me solve it. And so having acceptance of that has been really helpful, because then I can just make the tools and make the shifts and the changes that need to be for my brain. It doesn't have to be a one size fits all kind of thing. And so I'll just say also about one thing that really helped commit me to the Todoist was and continue this process is when I decided to do the upgrade. Because I used the free one for a while, like maybe a few months or whatever, the free version. And then I upgraded to pay like a monthly fee. So it would came out like $6 or whatever, $4 every month. And that was like just to explore it and be like, okay, what are the other options that come with it? And still, I felt a little bit like not sure, doubting myself a little bit whether I would actually continue with this, blah, blah, blah. And then when I finally did decide, okay, no, I think this is the right program for me, and made the purchase of, instead of renewing every month, it renewed like once a year or whatever. And so I had to invest, like, instead of like just little $4 here every month, it was now like $50 or whatever at once. That was like a way of acknowledging myself. Okay, I'm taking this seriously. And there's been challenges with it, with both using like with both Todoist and getting things done together. There's been times, it's been like about a year now that I've been like really committed to it. And there's been times over that year where I've been like, oh, maybe I should try something else. And maybe I need to like switch and try Stephen Covey's thing instead, or need to try some other technique or whatever. What's really helped me has been to like just acknowledge that it's as much about its habit. It's forming a habit around this stuff. And so that like habits take time to form, and like procedures take time to get into. And it makes way more sense to just keep trying to truck on with it, especially after I've made the investment.
Start all over.
Than trying to start all over. Yeah. Because the starting all over is fun and exciting. And that's what gives you the brain, like the dopamine. Oh, maybe I can transfer all the things I've already populated all my Todoist with. I can transfer them over to Trello, or I can give up on this getting things done thing and try the 7 habits thing instead. But you know what? Maybe I can try that in a couple of years.
Right. It doesn't all have to happen right now.
Yeah, give it some time. Yeah. One final thing I'll say about this is another sort of like, clearly I'm very influenced by mindfulness, and I meditate as often as possible. I was about to say daily meditation, but I'm like, no, I don't really do that. Yeah, as often as I can. But one of my favorite quotes that comes from like the Buddhist and meditation world that I like have applied to a lot of different areas of my life comes from the Dalai Lama, where he was asked once, like, what's like by a cheesy talk show interviewer with like, what's one of the quickest ways to get to enlightenment or whatever? And he was like, let's see, if you believe in rebirth, I'm in like my whatever incarnation, and I'm also 70 and I still haven't achieved it. It takes a long time. And then the advice he gave was the thing that I really stuck with me. He's like, how about this? How about you commit to a practice? And he was talking about meditation in this case, but it could be any other practice. He's like, how about you commit to a practice and try it out and try it daily as much as you can and blah, blah, blah. And then maybe once a decade, you can check in on yourself and ask yourself, is this practice still working for me? Is it making me happier? Am I like being kinder to people? Am I blah, blah, blah? Is it making my life easier, smoother? And so I've taken a bit of a similar, with a great result, of course, but similar approach where it's, okay, no, how about I just commit to this for a while and reassess? So I actually, in my Todoist, I have a thing that I have a reminder that will pop up sometime in 2023, I think, or something like that. Hey, is this GTD and Todoist thing still working for you? Yeah, like maybe check in. Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic. Thank you so much, Kathleen, for sharing your process, how you got to it, the good, the bad, the challenges, and how you overcame them. And I love the curiosity mindset and the mindfulness and resilience too.
Yeah, that was that's the word that I forgot to mention, was curiosity. That's a big component of mindfulness.
Absolutely.
It's like curiosity, openness. Yeah. Anyway, cool.
So, Pete, what do you think?
Well, I love it. And there are a couple of things I was thinking about as we were listening to that. And I think the first one is that I love the most is that this is like the power of going all in. If you're going to go in on a tool, go all in on the tool. And as somebody who dances across the surface of so many different tools, as I'm trying things, seeing what works, trying things, seeing what works, all in the service of helping others, I should add.
Of course.
Right. Of course. This is all, it is not at all self-serving.
Or a dopamine hit.
Or a dopamine hit. No, it is for the good of the people. But as a result of doing that, sometimes I get sort of lost a little bit in where all the data goes, right? It's everywhere. It's in all the places. And this is really the value of remembering to go all in. Like if you really want to figure out if it works, you have to stop playing. You have to get serious and get the work done. And there are a couple of tools in my life that I feel like I have done that. And a couple of them I'm still flying about, getting there. I'm coming in for a landing. But as somebody who just loves tools so much, that's really hard.
It is.
So.
Well, and I give her a lot of credit for being all in and really, when she was talking about how she missed the Facebook invite and, you know, she felt bad about it for a little while. And then just the change of mindset of how did it happen? And what do I need to do to prevent it from happening? It's just such a healthy way of looking at it, right? Because, you know, you're not blaming yourself. You're not going down this shame spiral. And again, you're all in the system. So you want to make it work. And I just really admire that she was willing to be able to do that. And the breaking up the birthday cards project.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah. That's great.
I love it.
That's great. I think that there is room for us to do, and maybe this is, I don't know, maybe this is an episode of the new members only podcast we were talking about. I don't know. Maybe it's a workshop that we do. I think there's room to go deeper on some of these individual tools.
Oh, for sure.
Because this is one that I think would be useful to actually talk about, like not just what you do with it, but how you do it.
How
like
you use
what do you
right?
actually type? What do you actually click to make the thing, to make, in this case, Todoist, a GTD receptacle? What do you actually do on these systems to do it? Not just what you use it for, but how you enable it. I think there's room for that. So if that would be an interest, let us know. Hit us up in Discord or Patreon and let us know.
There you go.
Thanks, everybody, for hanging out with us. Thanks for hanging out with Kathleen. Thank you for Kathleen for hanging out with us. We sure appreciate all of your time and attention. On behalf of Nikki Kinzer, I'm Pete Wright. We'll catch you next week right here on Taking Control, the ADHD podcast.